First thing that we have to do is log into the admin portal of our internet router. Now, the easiest way to do this is first go on Google, go to the search bar and type in your internet provider's name. So in my case, that's Bell, then modem, login. Press search, and you should see a result like this: internet provider's name, modem, login, and the address looks like an IP address. Click this, then click login, and it should route you to the admin portal of your internet router. The first thing that you have to do on this page is to log in. So at the top here, I'm going to press login, and it's going to ask you for your password. This is not the same as your Wi-Fi password. It is a password specifically for your internet router, and it should have been provided to you when your internet service provider set up your internet. So in our case, Bell gave us a little slip which has the admin portal password for our internet router. I'm going to enter this, then I'll be back to show you what to do next. Once you're logged into the admin portal, the first thing I want you to do is go to the devices section and to identify the devices that are connected into your router. Remember in the explanation video of port forwarding, I told you there are two different setups. If your security cameras are directly plugged into your router, you will see a full list of all your security cameras here in the devices section. If your NVR is plugged into your internet router and your security cameras are plugged into your NVR, then you will only see your NVR, not all of your security cameras. So keep that in mind. In the case of our office, I have both. So I have 3 security cameras here that I have directly connected to my internet router, and I also have an NVR that I've connected to my router, which has security cameras plugged into it. Now, we've done this obviously for testing purposes and for demonstration purposes, but for you, it'll be one or the other. Depending on the system integrator that originally set up your security system, the devices on your network may or may not be named correctly. So as you can see, my NVR, for example, is clearly labeled UniView NVR. But in your case, your system integrator may not have changed these names and properly named them. If you're seeing names like this, where it's a bunch of random letters and numbers, you're looking at the original MAC addresses of your devices, and that means that your system integrator did not rename them correctly. So for general best practice, my recommendation is for you to identify which devices which first and go into their settings and to rename them correctly as we have done so here, and then save the name. That way, when we're going to set up the port forwarding, the devices are much easier to identify and to set up rules for. Okay, now my devices have been identified and correctly named in my network. So let's move to the port forwarding setup section. What you have to do is find where the port forwarding is on your admin portal. In most cases, it'll be under something called advanced tools, advanced settings, networking settings, something like that. So you can see for Bell, for example, it's under advanced tools and settings. I'm simply going to press this. Under networking, it says port forwarding. So I'm just going to press this, and it will open up the port forwarding section of your internet router. For most of you, this page will be blank because you guys have never set up port forwarding rules on your router. For us, we have some rules already set up because we like to onboard and test security cameras and NVRs in our office. But not to worry, I'll show you how the process works from the beginning. First, I'll show you how to set up port forwarding rules for security cameras that are directly plugged into your internet router. Then I'll show you how to set up port forwarding rules for an NVR that's directly connected to your internet router. So let's get right into it. First, I'm going to set up 2 port forwarding rules for a Hikvision camera that I have directly plugged into my internet router. Remember, you need 2 rules because you have to port forward the internal web port and the internal stream port of the camera to different external ports on your internet router. So press create a new rule, give that rule a name that's easily identifiable. So I'll call this Hikvision web port. For the protocol, you have a choice between both TCP and UDP. For general best practice, use both or TCP. I'm not really going to get into the differences between them, but just trust me on this. Now remember, the internal web port of most security cameras is set to port number 80. So I'm going to set 80 here. And now I have to pick an external port number between 1000 and 65,000 so I can assign this for this Hikvision web port. So I'm going to pick external port number 4000, And lastly, I have to pick my device, which should be easier to identify because I've renamed it in the previous step. So you can see I have Hikvision here. I'll select this and then press create. Now I need to set up the port forwarding rule for the stream port of the same Hikvision camera. And the process is exactly the same, but we have to pick a different external port number. So the name of the rule will be Hikvision stream port. The protocol will be both again. The internal stream port of most security cameras is set to port number 554, and the external port I will be port forwarding it to will be port 4001. Then pick your device again here, which should be easier to identify. So I'll pick Hikvision and then press create. Now you can see when I scroll down, I've created two port forwarding rules for my Hikvision camera. One for the web port, one for the stream port, and they are going to external port numbers 4000 and 4001. So now I finished setting up the port forwarding rules for my security camera directly connected to my internet router. Now, let me very quickly show you how to do the same thing for an NVR. The process is basically exactly the same. The only thing changing is the device that you're picking. So let's first set up the port forwarding rule for my NVR's web port. I will give it a rule name, which is NVR web port. For protocol, pick both again or TCP. The internal web port of most NVRs is set to port number 80. And now I have to pick an external port number, which I will pick port number 5000. Then pick your device, which in this case is the UniView NVR, and press create. Then the stream port of the NVR. So same thing applies. We'll give this rule a name, NVR stream port. Protocol will be both. The internal stream port of most NVRs is set to internal port number 554. And now I have to pick an external port number, which I will choose 5001, and pick the device, NVR, and then press create. So when you scroll down, you can see that I've created two port forwarding rules for my NVR, one for the web port and one for the stream port, going to external ports 5000 and 5001 respectively. And now the process of port forwarding has been completed for my NVR.